Port Charles had always been a town built on secrets, but lately, the air itself felt heavier, as if even the walls were holding their breath. Elizabeth Baldwin sensed it long before she could explain it. Years of working at General Hospital, years of surviving chaos, heartbreak, and danger had sharpened her instincts, and those instincts were telling her one thing clearly. Something was very, very wrong with Willow. At first, Liz tried to ignore the feeling. Willow had been through so much: illness, emotional trauma, complicated relationships. Anyone in her position would be fragile. Anyone would be struggling. But what Liz was starting to notice didn't feel like fragility. It felt like control, and worse, calculation. Kai Taylor had only recently found himself woven into the lives of Port Charles residents. Smart, observant, and quietly confident, Kai wasn't easily rattled, but even he couldn't deny that Willow gave him an uneasy feeling. It started small, a look that lingered too long, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, a tone in her voice that felt rehearsed rather than genuine. One afternoon, Kai found himself at the hospital, flipping through patient files when Willow approached him. "Working late again?" she asked softly. Kai looked up and smiled politely. "Just catching up." Willow stepped closer, her presence oddly suffocating despite her calm demeanor. "You should take care of yourself more. You push too hard." It sounded like concern. It should have felt comforting, but it didn't. Instead, Kai felt as if he were being studied, measured. "Thanks," he replied carefully. "I'll keep that in mind." Willow tilted her head slightly as if analyzing his response. Then she smiled again and walked away. Kai exhaled, not realizing he'd been holding his breath. Something about her wasn't right. Liz's suspicions began with something almost insignificant: medication logs. As a nurse, she had a routine: checking dosages, verifying records, ensuring everything aligned. But over the course of several shifts, Liz noticed minor inconsistencies tied to Willow's patient care. Nothing blatant, nothing that would raise alarms on its own. But patterns began to emerge. A dosage adjusted slightly higher than prescribed. A timing discrepancy that didn't quite match protocol. Each time, Willow had an explanation. Each time, it sounded reasonable. But Liz couldn't shake the feeling that these weren't mistakes. They were deliberate. One evening, Liz approached Willow directly. "I noticed a few irregularities in the charts," Liz said gently, careful not to sound accusatory. "Just wanted to double-check with you." Willow didn't flinch. In fact, she smiled. "Oh, thank you for catching that," Willow replied smoothly. "I must have been more tired than I realized." Liz studied her face. No guilt, no nervousness, just calm. Too calm. "It happens," Liz said slowly. "We all make mistakes." Willow's eyes flickered for just a second, something darker passing through them before her expression reset. "Yes," she said, "mistakes happen all the time." The way she said it sent a chill down Liz's spine. Kai wasn't the type to jump to conclusions, but his instincts kept nudging him toward Willow, so he started paying closer attention. And what he found unsettled him. Willow seemed to know things she shouldn't. Private conversations, confidential details, even small personal habits of people she barely interacted with. It was as if she was always watching, always listening, always collecting. One night, Kai saw something that changed everything. He had returned to the hospital to retrieve a file he'd forgotten earlier. The building was quiet, dimly lit, almost empty. As he walked down the hallway, he noticed a faint light coming from one of the patient rooms. Curious, he stepped closer. Through the slightly open door, he saw Willow. She was standing beside a sleeping patient, her posture rigid, but she wasn't checking vitals. She wasn't adjusting equipment. She was whispering. Kai couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Cold, controlled, almost threatening. Then Willow reached down and adjusted the IV. Kai's heart skipped. That wasn't part of any routine check. He pushed the door open slightly wider. "Willow?" She froze. Slowly, she turned around. For a brief moment, Just a flicker. Her expression was completely different. Not kind, not gentle. Something else. Something darker. But then it was gone. "Oh, Kai," she said lightly. "You startled me." "What are you doing?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Just checking on the patient," she replied smoothly. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd make sure everything was okay." Kai glanced at the IV. Everything looked normal. But his instincts screamed otherwise. "Right," he said slowly. "Of course." Willow smiled, but this time Kai saw it clearly. That smile wasn't warm. It was a warning. Liz couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, so she did what she always did when doubt crept in. She investigated. Carefully. Quietly. She reviewed more records, cross-checked schedules, and began to piece together a pattern. Patients under Willow's care had a higher rate of complications, nothing extreme, nothing fatal, but enough to keep them in the hospital longer, enough to make them dependent. Liz's stomach turned as the realization began to form. This wasn't about mistakes. This was about control. Willow wasn't harming patients outright. She was manipulating their recovery, keeping them vulnerable, keeping them close. Why? Liz didn't have the answer yet, but she knew one thing. This was dangerous. Kai and Liz finally compared notes. What they discovered sent chills through both of them. "You think she's doing this on purpose?" Kai asked, disbelief lacing his voice. Liz hesitated, then nodded. "I don't want to believe it," she admitted, "but everything points to it." Kai ran a hand through his hair. That's serious, Liz. If we're wrong..." "I know," Liz cut in, "but if we're right?" The silence between them was heavy, because if they were right, Willow wasn't just struggling, she was dangerous. What Liz and Kai didn't realize was that Willow already knew. She knew they were watching her, she knew they were suspicious, and she was ready. Because in Willow's mind, everything she was doing made perfect sense. People needed guidance. People needed structure. Left on their own, they made poor choices. They suffered. They spiraled. Willow wasn't hurting them. She was helping them, in her own way. And if that meant bending a few rules, if that meant keeping them where she could watch over them, then so be it. Because Willow believed something with absolute certainty. She knew what was best, and anyone who threatened that would have to be dealt with. Liz decided they needed proof, not suspicion, not theories, proof. So she set a plan in motion. Carefully, she arranged to observe Willow during a shift, quietly monitoring her actions without drawing attention. Kai agreed to help, but they underestimated one crucial detail. Willow was already one step ahead. That night, everything seemed normal. Too normal. Willow followed protocol. She checked vitals. She updated charts. She interacted with patients exactly as expected. Liz frowned. "This doesn't make sense," she whispered to Kai. "She's being perfect." Kai's eyes narrowed. Too perfect. Then it happened. An alarm went off in one of the patient rooms. Liz and Kai rushed in. The patient was in distress, vitals dropping, equipment malfunctioning. Liz immediately moved to stabilize the situation, her training kicking in. Kai checked the equipment, and that's when he saw it. Something had been tampered with, deliberately. Liz looked up. "What's happening?" Kai's face darkened. "This wasn't an accident." Before they could say anything more, Willow appeared in the doorway, calm, composed, watching. "What's going on?" she asked. Liz turned to her, heart pounding, and for the first time, she wasn't sure who she was dealing with anymore. As the situation stabilized, one truth became painfully clear. They were being played. Willow hadn't made a mistake. She had set them up. She knew they were watching, and she had created a situation that made it look like the fault lay elsewhere. Or worse. Like Liz and Kai themselves had missed something. The implications were terrifying, because it meant Willow wasn't just manipulative. She was strategic. Later that night, Liz sat alone, her mind racing. Kai joined her. "We're in over our heads," he admitted quietly. Liz nodded. But we can't stop, she said firmly. Not now. Kai looked at her. You realize what this means, right? Liz met his gaze. Yes, she said. It means Willow is far more dangerous than we thought. And somewhere, just out of sight, Willow was already planning her next move. Because in her mind, this wasn't a battle, it was a game, and she intended to win, no matter the cost. As tensions rise in Port Charles, one question looms larger than ever. How far is Willow willing to go? Liz and Kai may think they're uncovering the truth, but they're walking straight into a carefully constructed web, and once they're caught, getting out may be impossible, because Willow isn't just hiding a secret, she is the danger. And by the time Liz and Kai fully realize it, it might already be too late. Thank you for watching. Write what you think about it, subscribe to the channel,